Hey, welcome everyone. Fridays with Freddie. Fred, great to have you on. We're continuing in our discussion in AI, and you usually like to start with some news, right? What's new in the marketplace that we should all be aware of? So fire away with that.
So, good morning, everyone. Two things that jumped out. So, remember what we did in the last episode? We spoke about that colleges should start thinking about a framework, right? Having an AI framework. We gave the example that there's the NIST example, there's the European example, and there's the OECD example. And as a little to do, I created a handy guide, at least a high level guide, for a college. We did that with Claude, and we
Yeah,
kind of knocked that out in an hour. So just want to remind people that it should be in the previous podcasts.
and it's on our
I
believe,
believe
under the
on the website,
insights
right?
area. Yeah.
So interestingly, in GovTech magazine this week, they were talking about that they did a survey and they found that the use cases of AI in higher education, or at least the use of AI in higher education, is increasing, but that the expectations are falling.
Hmm.
And that what colleges are really looking for is, give me a concrete use case that I can actually use, right? I mean, the use cases in the classroom as a tutor, an intelligent tutor, or perhaps having the instructor use it to build lesson plans, etc. We know those, but I think the industry is looking for other use cases. Now, there was one comment which kind of dovetails into the podcast we had last time, is that they literally called out that, we really need a good framework, or at least, a paradigm that helps us implement this within the college. So I think the fact that we were talking about it and that GovTech is talking about it means that it's a timely topic. Second piece of news, Google announced a new open source large language model. It's called Gemma 2B. But it's a mini large language model. It only
Hmm.
has 2 billion parameters. Imagine that, right?
Yeah,
Only
compared to the billions
right.
and billions. Yeah.
Um, Interestingly, it outperformed ChatGPT 3.5. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means you're going to have a relatively small, lightweight AI at the capability of a ChatGPT 3.5, open source, that
Hmm.
vendors of any type can now start integrating into perhaps your phone, perhaps your laptop, right? We've already seen announcements, for example, with Apple, that they're
Hmm.
starting to integrate AI, right? So I think this is going to become much more ubiquitous. So these were the two newsworthy articles that I found
From
in
this
the
week. Yeah.
from from this week. But and again, I keep on saying this: things are going fast.
So, with that in mind, our big recommendation to schools is, hey, figure out your governance side of it, figure out your framework. So that's step one. Next is what? What's the next thing they should be thinking about and working on in this long? It's a marathon towards AI. People, higher ed should not be sprinting towards it, so to speak. But in this marathon, what would be the next major milestone?
I think the major milestone, and we've spoken about it previously, is data is the oil of AI.
Yeah.
Right. So all the universities and the colleges are sitting on a myriad of ERP systems, LMS systems, third-party systems, perhaps even shadow systems.
Huh. For
Right.
sure.
There's interactions with students that are formal, that are informal. So there's a host of structured and unstructured data. What we foresee is that AI is going to be a layer that's going to sit on top and simply treats all of these systems as data repositories. So then the question becomes, how do you start, and by the way, connecting these data sources, right? And having systems talk to each other and making sure that we're all using the same language. This has been the job of IT and software engineering for decades and decades, right? So it's nothing new. I think what's going to be different this time is that we already have in many colleges a pretty robust data governance structure. And they probably have data science and a reporting team and a data team, etc. I think what's going to be interesting with AI is that you're also going to have to start pulling in unstructured data, right? So it's going to be
Yeah.
both of those things. So I
Right.
think that is going to be something. And again, one of the things we're trying to do with these podcasts, Joe, is, again, don't outsource your innovation, right? There's a lot of information out there, and starting to think about this, and which probably means not just thinking about it, but start having a meeting together with the right
Yeah.
stakeholders. And in
And
that meeting, perhaps start thinking about, well, who are the stakeholders who need to be involved in this conversation?
right. Yeah, and to that point, this wouldn't just be an IT discussion, obviously, right?
No.
Over the next 6 months to a year, there has to be strategic conversations that bring all the functional leaders and IT together to have these discussions. But
Yeah.
who's going to facilitate them, right? Who's going to take the lead? That's the question. On your campus, who's
Yeah.
driving?
Yeah. And then you get to the pretty standard project management 101, right? Or at least large project 101. You need a good executive sponsor that can kind of herd the cats and lay out a vision and say, hey, look, this is a priority for the college. Let's all get together and start working on this. But beyond that, I think a lot of departments in the college perhaps underestimate why IT has a unique position within the college, because it's the only department, it's the only organization within your larger organization that, by virtue of its job, has an end-to-end view of the entire college, right? So, I
Hmm.
mean, because that's the job of IT. So IT supports not only admissions, but also enrollment, also financial aid, also finance, also HR. So
Yeah.
there's people within the organization. Sometimes they're architects, sometimes they're quiet developers, by the way, who are sitting in the back of a room somewhere, just hammering away at the laptop, but is really an untapped resource of, hey, how would you connect all of these processes? So I think IT is ideally positioned to be a leader in this space. Doesn't always happen.
Right, because it depends on the competency of who's running IT and the people in that
Right.
shop. And there may be a very creative, innovative leader in the functional side or on the cabinet, who knows, that
Right.
is passionate about this. They can lead. To your point, it just has to be an executive sponsor who says, okay, gang, for the next year, we're going to invest some time at periodic intervals to have these conversations. And they're not just conversations for the sake of having conversations. There's going to be a reason to do the meeting. At the end of it, we're going to make some decisions and keep moving the ball forward. So 1 year from now, as all this stuff matures,
Yeah.
uh, we're ready. We've got our governance figured out. We have our framework figured out. And we figured out where all our data lies and which of those data sources are important to build that next generation student experience,
Yeah,
right?
and that's the pre-work, right? That's in our
Yeah,
consulting practice. One of the things that we do is, not only as a strategy, but as an actual tactical execution, which is you as an organization can do a lot of pre-work before you
yeah,
start bringing in a vendor or a consultancy, etc. Which is to
yeah,
answer those basic questions, because you don't want to be completely green, not even understanding the language, and then bringing in a vendor or a consultancy organization who will happily take your money for the next year trying to explain the basics to you, right? That's not how we operate, obviously. I mean, it's a matter of
hmm,
fact that we do the exact opposite, because we believe
yeah,
strongly that you have a lot of knowledge and competency within the organization that can be unlocked. And we have
yeah.
tools for that as well to actually
But if you're
help the
struggling
organization.
with, but if you're struggling with just facilitating the group and getting the
Mm.
group together and getting the conversation going, we can come at least
Correct.
kind of be
Yeah.
that catalyst to get the conversation going. But I completely agree with you. The real intellect, the real brain power for that institution sits within that institution. It just has to be bubbled up and focused on this very, very, very important issue. I think the big warning you and I are trying to send to schools is you can't ignore this. You can't say, oh, we're focused on enrollment right now,
Right.
or we've got other fires to put out, or we've got, protesters on our campus. Fine. Those are all realities of higher ed today. But this is the future. This is where you have to invest time. And you got to put your smartest and best people on this with a
Right.
1 year vision to be ready 1 year from now to pull the trigger on big things that are coming.
And
That's
of
kind of
course,
my thought.
exactly. And of course, the paradox is that at a lot of colleges, it's both colleges and universities, right? So it's not just exclusively to the highly academic universities. You have professors teaching AI,
Yeah.
writing papers on AI, who are experts in AI that
Hmm.
you can bring in. And I think the marrying of that foundational knowledge and actually the high level knowledge, at the same time, getting the IT department involved, who by the very nature of their business is like, okay, well, there's the ideal world, and then we need something put in, right? How do we,
Right.
so it's the balance between the two that I think that would be extremely powerful. Because as you know, Joe, we have a client that if you live in South Florida today, you can get a free bachelor's of artificial intelligence at this institution because this institution is partnering with the who's who in the tech business, with IBM and other organizations. But a lot of that came from the academic side, right? There was, in particular, one person that
drove and pushed for it,
drove and pushed for it.
It.
But that can be replicated across the industry.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so Fridays with Freddie. Fred, I think we've put people on the right foundation. If they're serious about this and they want to harness the power of AI, the first two steps are clearly laid out for them, and it's time to get going on those things. Schools that are already well on their way should feel very strong and feel that they're well on their way and confirmed. Schools that haven't started, no problem. This is a good time. You still have about a year, but 7 months from now, 8 months from now, or EDUCAUSE is around the corner. A lot of schools will go there, and every vendor is going to say AI, 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 AI. It's just window dressing, right?
Did I mention the term AI washing, Joe?
Yeah, AI washing.
I did,
we'll
right?
See a lot of that. Yes.
Yeah, they call it AI washing, which is like, oh, we have AIs. You got algorithms that you've been running for 20 years.
Right. And you're calling it AI now. So we'll see a lot of that at EDUCAUSE. We'll see a lot of that at the Alliance Conference in 25, which are the two kind of the main technology conferences we think that matter. Okay, so that's not where your main solution is. The main solution is on your campus, you in a room, figuring it out, and then going out with a set of requirements saying, here's what we are looking for at our institution. It's going to take a year. All right. So next week, we'll pick up on a new part, because I know when we started this podcast, you had 4 lanes you wanted to go after. We're still on lane number 1.
We're still on lane number 1.
Lanes. Right. We'll start switching lanes a little bit and keep having that conversation about transforming the IT house.
Of course, the reason why we're in lane number 1 still is because AI is moving so fast. There's so much to talk about. Look, we're only doing this for 10 minutes, but there's so much to talk about. Yeah. And every time when you think, I have a handle on it, there's another article that says, oh, by the way, we topped this.
That's right. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. See you next time.
Bye.